Snacks.
Yo, all right, what up? What's up? Welcome back, everybody, to the Ramblin' Raiders podcast for another episode. We have the Ramblin' recap of number 13 Oregon at Texas Tech, heartbreaker in Lubbock. Joining me as always, I have Laney's Locks or Hot Takes with Laney Cakes, whatever y'all want to refer to him as. I think he was pretty hot on the books this last weekend. Lane, what's up, man?
What's up? Yeah, hot on the books, but still down in the dumps after that big loss to Oregon. I was out in Colorado, had a great time at the wedding, but during the rehearsal dinner, there was a Sunday wedding. I was watching the Tech game on my phone the entire time,
Yeah,
and was just distraught after that. I don't know.
back to back. I mean, just put you in a bad mood. Everyone's like, why is that guy so antisocial now?
Yeah, and I wasn't, I was with my wife Caroline, and it was more of her friends. So yeah, I was stuck in the corner for a while by myself after that loss, just down in the dumps.
Yeah, hey, I hear you, man. I think we've all been there before. I got some war stories of post Texas Tech losses. Just people like wondering, hey, what's wrong with that guy? And they just don't get it, man. They couldn't quite understand. I will tell you this: I did go ahead and bring back the rally stash today. I shaved it before Lane's wedding. We're 0-2. It's time to bring it back, and I'm telling you right now, this bad boy is not going anywhere as long as this football season is in effect and Texas Tech is hopefully winning games and turning it around. So the rally stash is back. We're going to be talking mainly about again, the heartbreaker in Lubbock this weekend. Before I do that, let me plug our social medias, guys. We're on Instagram at Ramblin' Raiders, our Twitter, which is really active, is at Ramblin' Raiders. We also have our TikTok page. Go check that out at Ramblin' Raiders. And if you're still on Facebook and love checking out Facebook pages, our Facebook page is Ramblin' Raiders Podcast. Also, importantly, if you're watching here, it means you're on our YouTube channel. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, also that like button if you're enjoying this content. Subscribe to YouTube, Ramblin' Raiders. I think it's Ramblin' Raiders Media on YouTube, so check that out. And then last but not least, ramblinraiders.com. Go check out our new merch. We have a lot of cool merch items available, and I'm going to be sporting those here pretty soon once we get our first order in, and Lane will be as well. Okay, main content, man. Let's talk about it. We lose a heartbreaker. Number 13 Oregon comes into town. Apparently, it was an electric environment, really good atmosphere. Ducks traveled well. They had a lot of fans make it from Big Pick Joe's neck of the woods out there in the Wild West. The
Yeah, he was
yeah,
deep
man,
in enemy
Pacific West.
territory watching the game.
That's right, man. The
Old Big
Pacific
Pick.
West. He it looked like he was at a bar with Haley, man, just surrounded, man. He was covered up with
That's
ducks
right.
everywhere. So, opening remarks, Lane, I'll kind of start us off, man, just general takeaway from this game. And this is the first time Texas Tech football has been 0-2 since 1992, or is it 90?
1990, since before
Not,
both of us were born.
wow, pre-birth of myself, the Griffon brothers, man, pre-birth of both of us. Long time, 30 plus years since we've been 0-2. I know we all wish we could have hit a reset button on this season. You come in with so much hype, obviously, and clearly this is not where you want to be. But I will say, despite early struggles, I do think that this team is capable of rallying and making some noise in Big 12 play. I just remembered what I was going to look up now pre-pod. So while Lane's talking about it, I'll go look that up. But it's happened in the past. You've seen teams start off 0-2, really struggle, and then turn their seasons around, have good years. I think it's possible. You just played debatably the probably second best team on your schedule. If Oregon pans out, and you had them, you should have won. Really, you beat yourself. So Tech has a favorable schedule moving forward. Don't lose hope. I know it's hard to see the end of the road when you're sitting here on September 12th, right? And you just don't know what November 12th is going to look like when you're 7-8 games farther into the season. A lot of football left to be played. I still believe in this team. And like I just alluded to, and McGuire touched on in his post-game presser, he said, I went to our staff and I asked, is it us or is it them? Are they beating us or are we beating ourselves? And he said, we all came to the same consensus. It's us. We're beating ourselves, man. We got the guys. We have the talent. We're just got to stop making mental mistakes. So mark my words, a lot of football left. This team's going to surprise in the Big 12, and your goals are still out ahead of you. I mean, look, college football playoff, that was a far cry for any Texas Tech fan at the beginning of this year. But a Big 12 championship, a BCS bowl game, if you play your cards right and really rally down the stretch and play your best, peak at the right time, these goals are still achievable.
Yeah, there's a lot of football left to play, and like you said, this game was all about the big mistakes. We had more of them than Oregon did, and it ultimately cost us. We had the big turnovers, obviously the pick six, Joey making the call to go for it on that fourth down, questionable in your own
Oh,
territory. I mean, it's like those four plays, 4 or 5 plays, 4 or 5 mistakes that ultimately cost you the game. And
yeah.
so you just got to stay away from those big mistakes going forward. I know Joey and the team know that, so they'll probably be harping on that the rest of the way.
Oh, I agree. And Big 12 fans they're not upset. We're upset. Texas Tech fans are obviously upset. The players and the coaches are just as banged up and upset in the locker room. You think these guys are happy to come into this season and be 0-2? So it's a tough time for fans, tough time for the coaches and players. But again, it's just important to remember, unlike basketball, where you get another game in 2 or 3 days, in football, you got to wait that it's the highs and lows week to week. You got to wait for the next week, the next
Oh yeah,
Saturday through the bye
and
week.
all the fans are going to be on the keyboards, spouting out, giving their spiel. So you just got to take it with a grain of salt and
Just
keep going.
throwing knives into Tyler Shuck's back, throwing knives into Joey McGuire's back.
Uh, hey, you got to love it,
It's
man. This is
it
football in Texas.
it comes with the territory, man. It's part of being in a P5 program that prides themselves on playing some high level football. But ultimately, I think the biggest takeaway from this is that it's not over yet, and I know it's tough to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but I'm telling you, it's there. This team is capable of making noise. Speaking of mistakes that were made in this game, and really let's just kind of even reverse it back to just headlines out of this game, right? What are the keyboard warriors most active? Texas Tech Twitter, what's everyone most actively talking about right now? Tyler Shuck. All right, everyone is I'll put it this way: you see a lot of
The
calls for Baron
turnovers.
Morton. You see a
Yeah.
lot of calls for Baron Morton right now. And look, I'm not here. I'll give you all my take on it, but I don't really know if there's a right answer for this right now, because it's when a team's 0-2 and you're struggling and your offense is the biggest problem. They say the most popular guy on the team and with the fans is the backup quarterback, right? He's the most popular
Yeah.
guy for everyone to turn to, and we have a stud. I mean, that's the problem, is that when you have Baron Morton behind him, it's
Yeah.
people are going to talk because we've seen what he's capable of. We've seen that Brett Favre type arm strength, the Johnny Manziel maneuverability, right? It's if that's even a word, able to escape and get out and shuck and jive out there. So he's good. And Tyler Shucks had some, he hadn't played his best football, but I don't know, man. I'll be honest, Lane. I kind of want to hear your take on this first, but I'll go ahead and say overall, besides a few mistakes, he actually played a pretty good game.
Yeah. I mean, he had a
Which
ton of
fans, yeah,
rushing yards. He made some good throws. Obviously, made some poor decisions that cost us with the turnovers. But I think we are going to see Morton a lot in this next game if everything goes to plan. It's Tarleton. It should be a pretty dress
we
rehearsal of a game. We should win this
yeah,
one, hopefully. I mean, knock on wood.
no,
Obviously, things haven't been going our way, but I think we'll see Shuck maybe
yeah,
for a half, maybe 3 quarters, and then Morton will I assume probably get the second half is what I was
yeah.
thinking, or at least part of the third quarter and then all of the fourth. So you're going to see him in this game, and then I think they'll reevaluate after that going into West Virginia. But Shuck, you're right. I mean, he's had some okay start to the season, but he's just made too many turnovers that have cost us.
Yeah. He's so yeah, the question, should he be, the question that seems to be popular and circulating on Twitter, should he be QB1 moving forward? Me personally, I mean, it's a tough call to make just because we're not in practice every day. I'm not seeing it, but we got tape on Morton from last year and can see kind of he had some inconsistencies, but the arm strength is there. His, speed, right? His ability to run is there. And then Shuck from last year also. I mean, both these guys are can play at a high level and compete at a high level. I'll say for this game, besides a couple mistakes, just looking at the stat line right here. You have 24 of 38, not terrible, 282 passing yards, 3 TDs through the air with 101 rushing yards and 1 TD on the ground. That's pretty damn solid in my opinion overall. But then when you look to the next column, it's 4 turnovers. Granted, I'm going to take one of them with a grain of salt into the game. You got to chunk up a
Obviously.
Hail Mary. So that one, I see fans always throwing that in his face that it's 4. It's 3, really, like 3 bad
Yeah,
ones.
that's a Hail
But
Mary you have to throw, but yeah.
yeah, you got to put it up. And hey, at least he got it to the end zone. Unlike some
Unlike
former
uh
unlike some former Tech quarterbacks, no
Simonek.
disrespect. Yeah, I'll say no disrespect to Shimanak, but yeah, wow. Anyways, he got it there. The thing with Shuck is that overall, when he gets in a flow and is on time and in rhythm, and the line gives him enough time to go through his reads, he's been making good plays. It's when he does make mistakes, they are
Big.
game costing mistakes. I mean, you put them in your top 5 of here's why you lose the game for this. A lot of them are these turnovers. So
And that's
it's
kind of just
tough.
life as a quarterback. I mean, you're always going to have that spotlight on you, and if you make a mistake and it ends up being a turnover, it's huge. You
Yeah,
got to
because
just kind of sometimes you got to hope the defense drops the ball or doesn't get the job done.
true, and kind of to that point, Lane. I don't attribute all of this blame on Shuck, man. I mean, when you look at the stats I just laid out, when he's throwing the ball 38 times and he accounts for 23 total carries, that's a lot of action. You're putting the ball in his hands for a significant portion of the game. Naturally, that's going to create more opportunity for these mistakes, high pressure kind of mistakes to happen. Why, in my opinion, just in one way that you can alleviate some of these mistakes, some of this pressure on Shuck, why not feed your backs in Valdez and Brooks time, who look like they're getting some good chunk yardage, good playmaking capability in this game? Why not take a little pressure off Shuck and feed some of these guys, feed your backs a little more, maybe help your quarterback out. Kingsbury used to say, get them in rhythm. And you kind of as a play caller, right? You got to set them up for success and get them on the right path. So some of it is on, it comes with the territory of being QB1 and having to make plays, but I wouldn't mind just getting the ball away from Shuck a little bit to where he's not having to constantly make these high level decisions and reads and all this throughout the entirety of the game. Let's take a little bit of pressure off of him. Ultimately, I think I'm kind of with you, Lane. I think you're going to get to see both QBs, next game
This
and what
Saturday.
should be. Yeah, this Saturday, knock on wood, we'll handle business. If this team loses Tarleton State, burn it down. They won't. You'll see both QBs moving forward. To me, it's a little too early to completely bench Shuck. I'm just not quite there yet. I do believe his leash is going to be a lot shorter moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he goes on the road in Morgantown and starts really struggling.
Then you'll see Morton come
you'll
for
see
sure,
Morton.
I think.
You'll see Morton. Yeah, he's going to be coming a lot quicker in that regard. But yeah, I mean, Shuck I still think he's capable of rattling off some wins and getting this team and this program, where we want it to be this season. But all that to be said, you're not in an ideal position. So Morton is sitting there, and if Shuck is not having a good game, Morton's going to be coming in sooner rather than later.
Yeah, another thing to consider too is, like you said, handing the ball off more to the running backs. That's been a big point of fans. I've seen commenting quite a bit on, how Taj Brooks has his average of, 11, 12 yards a carry, but he only gets, a finite amount of carries. Yeah, exactly. So that's another thing. But with Morton, I could be wrong about this, but in my opinion, the offense changes too when he comes in. He's more of a gunslinger. It's going to be less designed QB draws that we see like with Shuck and we saw Donovan Smith. I think when Morton comes in, Kitley has more of a gunslinger. He has a guy that will, kind of throw it downfield, take some more chances, which, could be bad for turnovers, but Morton's that more of a gunslinger, I think, than Shuck. So the offense, in my opinion, changes a little bit. So it's something else to consider when making this change. It's going to be a big change for the offense entirely.
Well, you're right. I think we saw that he almost opens up the playbook a little more. And with Shuck's more, to me, seems a mechanical guy. He's got to go through his reads and his process, right? When he's back there, he's done a great job on the ground, when he puts it on, or not puts the ball on the deck, but when he takes off and runs, he's
a good runner.
He's a great runner. Some of those are by design by Kitley and are successful. And then some of them are just Tyler Shuck in an RPO situation or, scrambling situation where he just makes the call himself and picks up first downs. There's a reason why he's leading the Big 12 in rushing yards, or in rushing attempts. I mean, He's leading the Big 12 in rushing attempts right now, and it's because he is effective on the ground. I mean, he picks up a lot of first downs. I just read he had 101 yards rushing. He knows how to operate back there, but it's more mechanical. To your point with Morton, it seemed like when he was in there last year, it opens up the playbook, and he's kind of like I said, that Johnny Manziel, like I'm a gamer. I can do it on the fly, make those risky tight window passes. I'm gonna risk it more. I mean, he did have a couple turnover issues last year, but is also a guy who showed the capability of running when it was needed. Maybe not as much as Shuck has been,
It should be
trying to
less
run more.
designed, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, less design. Maybe it won't be as necessary as it has been for Shuck to run this year. But Morton certainly has the wheels. He has the speed to do it. And like you said, Lane, he's kind of got that gunslinger, more natural gamer type fluidity to his game, where he can get out there and just make something happen. And
Yeah,
Kitley
never
opens it
forget
up for him.
this is a fan base that are probably our best quarterback in our history. His junior year, Graham Harrell was booed, at halftime of the
Oh,
Colorado game after throwing
yeah,
3 picks, and they were turning on him pretty quick, calling for his head. He let a little comeback, then went on the road to Baylor and won. Later that year, beat Oklahoma, number 3 or 4 team in the country. So
yeah.
it can still happen for Shuck.
Oh, for sure. And like I said, there's no really wrong answer here. I mean, Morton's certainly capable, and Shucks showcase that he's capable as well. He's just made mistakes, and we're 0-2. So I get why fans are talking about it. I just know for me, I'll say here on Ramblin' Raiders that just I still believe in Shuck for now. I want to see him. It's 2 games to me. I just need a little bit more of a sample size. Let's let him get in there, tear it up against Tarleton State, go on the road against West Virginia, and I think he gives you some stability that he hasn't show. He didn't showcase against Oregon, but overall that he conservative kind of is. He shows the ability, the stability you need from the quarterback position to make reads, make right decisions. It was just unfortunate that he had a very uncharacteristic game from what we've seen from him in the past against Oregon and turning the ball over so much. Speaking of coaching, though, we just talked about coaching in this game, and I do want to bring up again something that we've talked about, Lane, critical coaching errors. I'll start us off because this is a pet peeve of mine, and it always has been. It's just like in roulette for me. You stick to your numbers, you stick to your plan. And for me, the rule of thumb is you never chase points. I'm a believer in never chase points early on in a game. Right when it happened, first off, their 2-point conversion kind of wonky. They somehow pulled off a swinging gate on us, which should never happen in college football. I don't know how they actually attempted and successfully achieved a
Executed.
2-point convert. Yeah, they executed a swinging gate 2-point conversion. That's junior high. I don't know how we dropped the ball on that. But we go down and we try to, cover them up and get a 2-point conversion ourselves. I hate
No
it.
need.
I hate
No
it.
need.
You don't do it. You never chase points. And it ended up costing us. I mean, they should have kicked that field goal I say that. It would have been a tied game with us driving down to win it. Shuck those a pick six. Obviously, that would have erased it. But you're just in a much better situation, I think, from a play calling standpoint, from the way you can approach the game and your mentality in the press box and with the headset on when you're not chasing points and losing opportunities late in games because you're down points unnecessarily.
Right. Yeah. And then obviously we already touched on it, but going for the the fourth down deep in your territory. I mean, I will say a lot of fans have been, kind of roasting Joey on this one, but that's another thing. He did stick to his guns. I mean, he lived and died by it last year. He lived and died by it in this game. And obviously sometimes it's going to kill you. Sometimes you're going to live and it's going to be great. Sometimes you're going to die. And he died on that one.
Yeah, there's a lot I could say about this, and I'm not sure. I can't remember. I believe it might be Kitley's call actually. Or I can't remember if it's Joey or Kitley, but they have their analytics.
I think Joey's definitely got the final say.
The final say, yeah.
But I'm sure the analytics and Kitley, they give their advice and say, hey, this is a green light, and he says the ultimate yes or no.
And he says maybe I can set him up. Let's do it. I mean, the green. So yeah, ultimately they're looking at some analytical card that they have where it's like you said, just like with roulette, like when it's a certain percentage and a certain amount of the field, they're like, it's in the green. We're going to go for it. I can respect sticking to your guns, and you're right, Lane. That was one thing I think texted in our group during the game. You were like, dude, people can say what they want, but we did it. Hell, it won us the game against UT last year. Pretty much won
Yeah,
us the game against U of H, and it won us the game against OU. You live by it, you die by
we
it.
die by it. And I
I
mean, it
mean,
cost
and
us some game. NC State, it didn't work out for us last year. So
yeah,
I mean, there was times it
yeah.
didn't work last year as well. But
In this
that's Joey's
situation,
MO.
and I get the analytics, I get sticking to your numbers, I get the gut, or sorry, not the gut, but sticking to your guns, the analytics of all this. But I do wish in some situations, again, this is just me. I just don't understand how you don't punt this away. I really don't, man. I mean, I get it. Like I love the aggressiveness of Joey McGuire. I do, and we talked about this on an episode last year when we were a couple games into the season. I'm all for being more aggressive than not. When it comes to the scale of aggression being this is the most aggressive. This is you're being as conservative as they
Conservative.
come. Jimbo Fisher conservative. LOL at the Aggies, man. They also were suffering on Saturday. Jimbo Fisher conservative to maybe Mike Leach aggression. Joey's on the right side of it, in my opinion. I like being a more aggressive play caller, but there comes a time when I feel like you gotta feel the momentum of the game, and you have to be able to make a judgment call and just feel it in your gut that what the right thing to do is. And on that one, I just don't. I feel like you had to kick it, man. I just don't understand why you wouldn't let your defense, who has been playing well for you all game, we're going to highlight them in a second, why you wouldn't let them, take the field and try to get a big stop for you. The other big part of this, to me, is the play call. I mean, one thing,
Yeah,
and even
that's what
you
I was
said
gonna
this,
say
Lane.
as well.
You go. I don't
Oh,
mind the if you want to go for it and do what you do it. But a delayed QB draw. I mean,
is and we've seen
come
it
on,
time and time again. We saw it with
yeah,
Donovan Smith a couple times last year. That's just to me is not a fourth down play.
no, man. Let's get
Especially it's just so it's the tail. I think it's
yeah.
defenses can see that coming. In my opinion, I don't know. I'm not a coach, but
Or
it's just watching it from the sidelines. I
yeah,
know that
yeah.
you kind of see it happening. It's like
Well,
why?
you got one-on-one coverage. I can't remember if it was Bradley or Miles Price, but why not get a quick slant? I mean, I feel like you just have to have a better, like, hey, we have 3 fourth down go-to plays, or 5 that we
And I
rotate that
always
are,
like something that has options. I mean, I think you got to
yeah.
have another option besides just running a delayed QB draw. You got to have
Hey,
I
try
got a
to,
pass option here. I got a pass
yeah,
option here, and then in the last case scenario, I can take off and run. I mean, you got to have
exactly.
an option
RPO.
play,
Let's do it. Hit him
something.
with an RPO, man.
Yeah,
Allow Chuck to at least make the read and maybe pull a linebacker, extra defender over to Brooks or Valdez, and then find his groove to get it. But yeah, I hated the play call there as well. I get it; it's easier to say in hindsight and be a
yeah.
what do they
Of
call him?
course, if Shuck busts it for 15 yards,
Yeah,
we're saying something
it's
completely different.
it's
But
easy to be an armchair coach, but I don't know. I'm with you, Lane. Let's give them some options. Let's have something that's just a little more surefire on a 4th and 2 and that big of a juncture in the game, critical juncture, than just, hey, let's do the 6th delayed QB run with Shuck. I don't like it.
yeah,
So
I'm
there
always
were some,
concerned if I'm the one that I can call the play before it happens, and I think that's going to happen. I think that's not a good thing. If
if
I'm knowing what's
yeah,
happening, that's not good.
if we can see it, the
Yeah,
Oregon defense can sure as hell see it. So a
exactly.
couple coaching mistakes in this as well that hurts your chances in this game. Real quick, I do want to plug our sponsor. Take a little sponsor break for Pennant Patchworks. They are the best hats. In fact, I went to go order some today, and they're sold out of the white with the red rope throwback double T. I think that's like their vintage, one of their best ones. But they have all of their hats are money, dude. They're great, and you can get a 10% discount using the promo code Ramblin at checkout. RAMBLIN, all caps, Ramblin. Use that for a 10% discount on your overall purchase. Go to their website, pennantpatchworks.com. Look at their shop. Check out their hats. They're my favorite lids in any market when it comes to Texas Tech apparel. So they also threw an amazing tailgate, it looked like, before this game. They had everybody out, the boys and girls having fun and selling some merch. Can't wait to get up there and have an opportunity to link up with them in person. But in the meantime, use this promo code, guys. Save yourself some money. Ramblin, again, all caps, at pennantpatchworks.com. Okay, so we talked
Hey,
about,
you said Pitt Patchworks, and look who came a running. Willie, I think
oh,
needs him a Pitt Patchwork hat himself. So
I'm gonna pitch
I
that. I'm
might
gonna
have to
pitch
get him
that.
one.
That's right. I'm gonna pitch that to Drew and see if they have any dog apparel that they can start, manufacturing, throwing our way. They're a real popular item with the canines, man. Willie, being the good boy
You
that
heard
he is,
Pitt
man,
Patchwork, and he came a running.
he came running, dude. He knows quality when he hears it. Okay, so let's talk about
Right?
some positives. We've been, and we'll kind of wrap up with this. Tough loss. Ultimately, you have your mistakes, but there's also a lot to be excited about in this game. The first thing, and I'll give Kitley, I know a lot of people have kind of been riding him and upset with Kitley. He really was able to utilize the tight ends in this game. That was a adjustment he made from week one. And I mean, Tharp had a night, touchdown
Yeah.
catch. He had 4 catches. I forgot his total yardage. One of them was for a tutty. He was like our third leading receiver in this game. I mean, he's out
I
there.
think,
He's a monster. Sure hands. Gotta feed him.
yeah, one of his touchdowns also got called back on another
That's
one.
right.
So that was another big play that kind of got called back on a penalty. But so he was almost had 2 TDs there, and yeah, he looked really good. And that was a
Should have.
big adjustment.
They also got Baylor Cup involved. I mean, he had a catch, kind of a big catch at one point in the game, and so seeing those two guys mixing them in, getting them more targets and feeding our tight ends, that's such a, I feel like, lethal part of an offense if it's utilized correctly. And you don't want to underutilize tight ends that are as capable as the tight ends that we have at Texas Tech. We're tight end you. They did a great job. Really proud of Tharp. You could almost make an argument for kind of a player of the game, man. He made some huge catches when we needed him most. Should have had 2 touchdowns, and I love to see him getting involved, at least on the offensive side of the field, because the defense is really where I think we made our stand. We held our ground. Any kind of thoughts on the defense, Lane?
Yeah, coming in, all signs pointing towards this is probably one of the best offenses in the country that we faced with
Yeah.
Oregon, and they played a pretty good game, holding them really, in my opinion, to pretty close to under 30 points, right at 30 points, and then obviously
Yeah.
the pick six didn't help on the score tally. But I think that's a pretty good job by DeRuiter in this defense. I think they had an interception that was wrongfully taken away from them that would have changed the game in a big way. In my opinion, it was an interception, and in my opinion, I think he got 2 feet down
That
before
was
going out. So I was
people
really confused by that.
people don't talk about that enough in the moment. I mean, I get the call in the field was that it was just a broken up, like incomplete pass or whatever. But I don't know if the guy just had his ego got in the way and he wasn't willing to reverse the call in the field. But I mean, to me, the 2 angles they showed, that was very much so, very clearly an interception.
Yeah, and you
Yeah,
never want to blame refs, but that's a play that I just don't understand how it's not a pick.
yeah,
I haven't been able to rewatch the game and rewatch how they reviewed it, but from looking at the highlights and watching it live, I thought it was a interception 100% the whole way, and I
yeah.
didn't get much feedback on people saying the other, no, it wasn't a pick. Everyone
Yeah,
seemed to be pretty 100% sure it was a pick.
I was gonna say you haven't seen too many in the other camp on that, and so Malik Dunlap, you take away or an interception from him that, I mean, it was a hell of a play too that he made. Really would have loved to have seen that gone our way. Should have gone our way.
And at that
Lane,
point, we have the lead, and I think
yeah,
that completely changes the game.
a lot of momentum. But to your point, so I would say unassisted by the offense, they give up 28 points in this game. The field goal, because we decided to go forward on our 35 or something. I mean, that you basically put them in field goal range when you turn it
Right.
over on downs there. Then the pick six, that's 10 points right there. I mean, you hold this highly touted Oregon offense, one of the best in the nation, to 28 points. You tell any other team that when they're playing Oregon, they're going to say that should
We'll
be
take
enough
it.
to get it done. Yeah, we'll take it. That should be enough to get it done and get us a W. Really impressed with freshman Ben Roberts out of Hazlet, Texas, stepping up in this game with some injuries that we've had on the defensive side of the ball. Had 12 tackles, 6 solo. He's going to be getting his first start against Tarleton State. And I think that speaks to the volume of, here's a young freshman coming in, filling in against a great team. And I mean, you go back and watch the highlights. This dude is all over the field,
Flying.
flying, really, making some great contact and just a ton of assisted tackles as well. does a good job. It speaks to the recruiting efforts of Joey McGuire. He's bringing young guys in that we're starting to see just in year two who are talented enough and working hard enough to make things happen. And when those injuries that happen every year that are inevitable come down, you got to have, second and third string options that can help you out like these big hitters do, some of these blue bloods do. And it looks like we're starting to get some of that here at Texas Tech. On that note, I would be, I couldn't go without saying, I'd be remiss without saying that how about McGuire, despite all the woes to start this season, pulling in the number one recruit, the best recruit in Texas Tech's football program's history, and Micah Hudson, 5-star receiver out of Belton, Texas. He's in the top 10 overall players in the 2024 class, recruiting class. If you go off of the namesake
Rivals.
recruiting sites, Rivals and 24/7 Sports, they have him as a 5-star top 10 player in the class. This is a guy that he was Georgia, Bama, UT, A&M, Michigan. All the heavy hitters are coming after him, and he chose little old Texas Tech because I think he knows that there's some good, or in his own words, he developed some really, profound and solid relationships with the coaching staff that felt genuine and authentic to him. And on top of that, he knows that despite the start of this season, there's something brewing on the West Plains of Texas, man.
That's right. Pretty wild that Joe McGuire, despite the 2 losses, starting 0-2, first time since 1990,
Yeah.
he reels in the biggest recruit in Texas Tech history. So that's pretty wild, and it's fun to see. We also got that quarterback out of Hutto committed, which is huge. I think those 2 guys could be definitely some program changers going forward. And he's continued to recruit all over the field, not just offensively but defensively as well. So the recruiting is definitely a positive. And hopefully we can turn that, productivity in the recruiting room to talent on the field and turn into wins, hopefully.
No, I you love to see that. And it's something that, like you said, coming off 0-2, you wouldn't expect it, but it's the new norm with
he saw
Coach
that
McGuire.
environment. He saw that environment with Oregon coming in. And
Dude.
even though we couldn't get the win, he was like, this is where I want to play.
Yeah, man. I mean, you had the stripe out looked good with the red and white, the new stadium floodlights, the red lights show was awesome. I know Lane's not a big fan of the swag surf, but hey, it was a good environment.
The video on Twitter, I mean, it's great. It seemed loud. The atmosphere looked rocking, but the swag surf to me is just very Aggie, and I can't really get behind it at this point.
Yeah. No, I feel like we got to kind of maybe come up with something there too. Okay, so on a closing note, I do want to say that, and I referenced this at the beginning of the podcast when I was thinking about it pre-pod. I want to take y'all back to this 2016 season to an Oklahoma Sooners team that started their year off losing. They lost 23-33 to Houston, who finished the year unranked, or was at least unranked at the time. I don't remember how they finished. Lost to Houston. They went and won their gimme game like Tech's about to do with Tarleton State against L.A. Monroe. Then they got their ass kicked by Ohio State at home. Started their year off 1-2. Everyone wrote off the Oklahoma Sooners. That OU team came back and won the Big 12 that year. They rattled off. They went undefeated after being 1-2 in non-con, beating some close games too, but, UT, TCU, all the way down the line, and then ended up winning the Sugar Bowl against Auburn that year, having a great season. Also, Arkansas, you'll remember they didn't have quite as good a year, but back in 2015 when Tech beat them, they started their year off 1-2. They lost to some Wyoming-esque nobody, right? And then
they lost
to us, 1-2. They ended up going 8 or 9 wins that year and winning a pretty solid bowl game as well. It's doable. This is not the start we wanted, but you're in, you play these games where you're in both these games with chances to win against a G5 team that you're 10 to 14 points better than you should have beat. And then against a team that's very much in contention to win the Pac-12, kind of an outside looking in dark horse to make it to the college football playoffs. You got Oregon, Washington, USC, and Utah are kind of the 4 that are vying for that Pac-12 championship. And I think Oregon very well could get in there and get it done. So 2 games, you're in both of them. You're not getting blown out. You're competing. You're in the fight. You just can't get it done. This team is not done scrapping yet this year. Let them talk on Twitter. Don't reply. Don't respond. Let UT talk. Let all the haters, the trolls talk their shit. They're doing it. And guess what? We got to take it because we deserve it right now. But it doesn't mean it's over yet, man. It's not the end of the road. Mark my words. I think that this Texas Tech team is going to come back and have a Arkansas/OU type recovery this season.
You still think we get to 9 wins?
I think it's with our schedule, and I'll admit, if we had OU and Oklahoma State on there, I might be singing a different tune. With the schedule Tech has, I think it's possible. I really do. UT at the end of the season, they look like they're pretty damn solid after going on the road and thumping Bama. But Oregon, I look down the line. Besides Kansas State, Oregon's probably your second best team you're going to play all year. And you have Kansas State at home. You have a TCU that's clearly not the TCU of last year, but still solid. You have them at home. You have UCF at home. And then you have your teams on the road like Baylor, who's very down this year, maybe down worse than Tech, to 0-2 to start the year. I was looking at it earlier, but your road, West Virginia, not the West Virginia. I mean, they're a team that has not had a lot of success and isn't looking like they've really recovered that much under Neil Brown this year. Your road games are BYU, Lane. That's what you touched on. BYU's kind of assy McGee.
They have not looked good starting off.
Yeah.
I mean, Sam Houston State 14-0, the final there. That didn't look good.
U of H lost to Rice, so womp womp. Like they're not looking too great either. Your schedule is favorable for Tech. I mean, but truly, I think you have your toughest games at home, which is nice, and then you have your kind of more pancake, sort of softer games on the road in Big 12 play. You don't draw OU, you don't draw Okie State. I say, never say never, baby. I still think 9 is achievable. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but once you win your first one this weekend and then you hit that Big 12 slate, anything's possible, man. And this team they got to tweak a few things, man. You tweak a few little things, and all of a sudden you can rattle off some W's here.
That's right. And we're going to get it done this week.
Hey, and that's how we're going to do it. Look, guys, y'all, thank y'all for tuning in. Ramblin' Raiders, stay strong. To the House of Chef. I'm switching Chef Nation now. House of Chef, Game of Thrones style. I apologize. I have a full-blown Tim Tebow soliloquy coming y'all's way. We had a terrible week on the books. But Ramblin' Raiders are staying strong, baby. We love bringing y'all this content. We love y'all, the followers and the listeners. And we're just getting started, man. It's week 2. We got plenty of football left for this.
A lot of action left. A lot of action.
That's right, man. Lane, any final words to the listeners before we head out?
No, keep your guns up. Let's go beat Tarleton State. And I will say Laney's Locked had a much better week on the books than Chef Nation, or House of Chef now.
House of Chef is down bad right now after week 1 and week 2. And hey, Tarleton State, like they ain't ready, man. Like they don't know. Tarleton State doesn't know what's coming to them.
As you would say, they're going down like a sweet muffin.
Tarleton State's going down like a sweet muffin. Ramble on, guns up, wreck them. We'll see y'all next time. And by the way, we're not doing a preview of Tarleton State because they're going down like a sweet muffin. So this is your one pod for this week. We'll see y'all next time. Peace.